For about 5 years. We started at the same time as Gilman Street, and so we played there quite frequently, and it was very much our home. It was kind of like our home base for playing shows. We played all over, but that's the place we would always come back to.
I was at Gilman Street, and I was introducing bands. There was some fights there at the time. They needed some help, somebody getting up to cool things off. I knew Operation Ivy. They were in fact the headline band that day. And there's a third band, and they came up to play. And I leaned over to the singer, and I'd already known Trey Cool. And it was a surprise to see him playing in the band, because I'd known him when he was like 11 years old. But I leaned over to the singer and said, "Hey, who are you guys?" And he said, "Well, we're Green Day." And there was so much excitement going on, and I remember Green, and I said, who are they? Yeah, here they are, get ready for, here they are, Green. And Green, what was that again? Day, and I said, Green Day.
It was very interesting to see a band that was a little bit more sophisticated than playing pure punk rock, playing at Gilman Street. I mean, these were guys who didn't just listen to punk, but also listen to things like Soul Asylum and the Replacements. So, and I thought they were great songwriting.
And then they started, and they got into it, they kicked off. And I really like them. I like their energy, and I like their kind of positive approach, and they kind of cool things off. And I wrote a mental note to myself in my head, watch for these guys, they're pretty good.
It was really exciting. You kind of stood in the room and knew you were somewhere that something was happening. It must have been a lot like that to the people who were maybe standing in the Cavern Club watching the Beatles in 1962. You knew something was going to come of it.
As Billy Joe and Mike performed with Jesse and Co., they started to form new ideas about what a band could be, and their dream of being signed to a label was about to be realised. Lawrence Livermore, a 43-year-old perpetual adolescent, started Lookout Records.
Larry, he was on welfare, and he took the money that he was getting from the government and he used it to put out records. Initially by his own band, which was called the Lookouts, who Trey Cool actually played drums for.
Well, Larry is very much a double-edged sword. He's a very mischievous person, so he loves music and he's very supportive, but he can also, you know, be a little bit on the combative side. I never had those situations with him, but I know a lot of other people have. But anyways, in our case, he was just very supportive, and obviously put out our records. So.
Larry Livermore tells a story about the first time they played at his house up in Humboldt County, and it was like a rainy night. There were 5 people there, and they played like they were playing in an arena in front of 100,000 people, and said, "This is the best band I've heard. I'm going to ask them if they want to put out a record," and he put it out.
Now that Sweet Children had their first signing, they decided to change their name.
I asked Bill one time what the name Green Day meant. First of all, when I first saw the name in magazines, in little zines, I would think, oh, Green Day, Greenpeace. I thought it had to do with environmental, save the whales, save the forests, or whatever. And that wasn't exactly it at all. It was, I think, one day they were sitting around getting stoned, and they said, gee, this is our Green Day.
Larry, I know he was really unhappy when they changed the name from Sweet Children to Green Day. He thought Sweet Children was kind of a romantic sounding name, and Green Day being kind of a code for pot smoking, he thought that was really stupid. Almost didn't want to put out the record anymore.
However, for the renamed band to succeed, it would mean hard work and determination, and a curtailing of their stoner habits, because from now on, they meant business. Green Day's first release came in 1989, a 7-inch EP called 1000 Hours. This was followed early in 1990 by their debut album, 39 Smooth. So, who were the influences, and what were they writing about?
In response to whether or not we were an influence to Green Day, I would say that more than us influencing them, that the whole scene was very interdependent and mutually influential. I mean, I certainly, as soon as I heard Billy Joe's songwriting style, I'm not ashamed to say that I picked up a few pointers myself. So I think it was a bit more of a back and forth than strictly us influencing them. But either way, I'm certainly flattered that they would say that.
You know, everyone always says that, you know, they're just the Ramones or they're the Dickies or they're, you know, the Clash. But when you ask them, their favorite bands were Husker Du, The Replacements, Social Distortion, a lot of California punk, even the Beatles a little bit, Elvis Costello, Billy Joe Loves, Robert Smith and The Cure.
The earlier days, the songs tended to be about what it was like living in the East Bay, or, you know, what it was like being a young guy who doesn't have much hope of accomplishing much with his life. You can play music and you take out your frustrations in life on the music, and that's definitely a part. I mean, that's part of the appeal. Is if you can manage to put teenage angst to a beat and a catchy tune, you're gonna win every time.
Each song has its own like feeling to it, you know, own emotions to it, whatever. You know, tap on that particular subject, and Bill writes it down, and then he can forget about it and go on to the next one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like home therapy or anything like that. It's just more like, I don't know, trying to just deal with yourself, you know.
Operation Ivy's singer Jesse Michaels also provided the artwork for the album cover.
I did a lot of record covers back then, the Operation Ivy stuff and a lot of other things, and so I approached them about putting it together. They were involved in the process, but it got so near the deadline and our communication was so sort of flaky that at the end it just sort of got thrown together and put out there. But I've heard they liked it.
Soon this record was vanishing from the stores quicker than Livermore could have dreamt. They were taking off.
And so with Green Day, you know, people always say this, they're at the right place at the right time, but they also kind of had the talent and the charisma. They were young, they were cute. You know, the record industries were looking for the next Nirvana, and they actually found it here with Green Day.
While 39 Smooth was a success on the local scene, the band hit the road crisscrossing the USA and even landing a handful of shows in Europe. But the arduous tour took its toll on John Kiffmeyer, and he announced that he was quitting the band.
Al left the band to go to college. I believe he still lives in the Bay Area, and he's been in a few punk bands. I'm sure he's kicking himself for not staying in the band, because I would be.
He seemed like a very nice guy, but I also have heard a number of stories of his temper. And I could see, I've played in bands with people with personalities like that. It's hard. It's very hard. You hit a point, you're on the road in a van, and somebody is mad at the world, and they're taking it out on you, and makes it difficult to get to the next show. Not just turn the van around and go home. Bands are a lot like marriages. You have, it's very hard to. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's not just your friends and you get together and play music. You have to get along at a very deep level, and if it doesn't work, you've got to get rid of somebody. One thing that people don't know about Green Day is that Al and Trey weren't the only drummers in the band. A friend of mine, Dave E.C., was actually fill-in drummer. He was the first person to be asked to take over when Al left. Played with them for a few weeks, and then put himself out of the band. He just told them, "I'm not good enough for you guys, you need a better drummer." And they gave him a songwriting credit on 2,000 Light Years Away, but he doesn't really expect anybody to pat him on the back for having quit Green Day right before they became a big deal.
As the band prepared to go into the studio to record their second album, Lawrence Livermore suggested a new drummer, nearer their age. Trey Cool was now on board, and the final Green Day lineup was complete.
What happened the day that Green Day came to my show, I guess it was in the spring of '92, and there was kind of a buzz going around. People knew that Green Day that there was a bidding war going on for them. And they did a show on Calyx actually as a show at the Gilman, but they were having us broadcast it, and I think it was kind of a way that Lookout was thanking the radio station and giving us a chance to kind of wave farewell to them.